Hi, I'm Euge Valovirta and welcome to my recording, mixing and mastering course. My original idea was to do 4 separate videos about the gear, the recording, the mixing and mastering. But then I thought I'm just gonna do one long video and then I'll put headings in there and in the description where you can choose what to watch. But the idea is that first the gear, then the recording, then the mixing, then the mastering. Shortly about myself, because I'm sure there's many people out there who don't know who I am. Guitar player, bass player, a professional recording, touring artist, songwriter, you name it, over 20 years. I've also been an A&R manager at Universal Music, producer, executive producer, tens of albums, hundreds of recording sessions, as an artist, as an executive producer, engineer, mostly as a guitar player. So I have a bit of experience. Not much, but a bit. This is mainly focused on guitar, bass and programming drums, but the same rules apply pretty much to real drums as well, and recordings in general. I'm gonna start from the basics, because I'm sure there's many people who's just starting to, this thing of making music and recording. So if you're already a professional audio engineer, recording engineer, have a studio, then you could probably skip this if you want. Nowadays, it's really easy to start to record stuff and quite affordable. What you basically need is a computer. Pretty much all laptops nowadays, they have enough power to handle, basic recording things. This is an old Mac from 2015, only 8 gigabytes of memory. It still works. The iMac I have, it's 64, so there's plenty, because it can handle really big sessions and Final Cut video editing sessions and stuff. Then you need an audio interface. What is an audio interface? Well, it converts the audio signal to digital, and then the signal travels via USB cable to the computer, because the computer is, it can only read ones and zeros. And then it goes back, so the audio interface transfers it from digital to audio. So audio interface is basically an ADDI converter and a preamp. Many people have asked me, like, where should I put the guitar and what not, vocal mic or. There's like 4 types of signals. Microphone level, it's your standard XLR cable microphone. You put it here, it recognizes that. If it's a condenser microphone, those need phantom power, 48 volts, then there's usually here's like 48 volts. Phantom switch, and this feeds the power to the microphone. Those old big microphones. The second weakest is instrument level. What comes from your guitar or bass? Usually these have the knob, inst. It's just here. Then you press this. The second strongest is line level. What comes from keyboards, from reactive loads, and so on. And usually these recognizes. It says on the Steinberg UR816C, it says like there's 2 different inputs. There's microphone level / instrument level, which is high Z, and then there's microphone level / line level. So it recognizes that. Here is the switch where you switch the instrument, which is the kind of the high Z. Then the strongest signal is a speaker level, what comes out of, amps. Speakers level signal you don't put here. This will probably explode, and you need a certain cable there's a lot of power going. So speaker level signal goes from amplifier to cabinet, or from amplifier to reactive load. And then the reactive load, it acts like a speaker cabinet, and most of these you can load impulse responses, then it will sound also like a cabinet mic with certain microphones and so on. And it also will transform the loud as F, strong as F speaker signal to line level signal, and then you can connect it to an audio interface. Cables. Never underestimate the power of a good cable. No matter how good your equipment or gear is, if you have bad cables. I use mostly cordial cables, but I have other brands too. Basically, if a cable has a Euge plug, then that's like the sign of quality. Because no cheap cables, there's no point to put like these expensive Euge cables. So I have all my jacks, they're Euge, and the cables, they're mostly cordial. And these are really cool, these noiseless cables, so it cuts when I plug the guitar, there's no noise. Good cable. The same applies to speaker cable, XLR cables. Again, cordial cables, Euge, jacks. And I'm not sponsored or anything, this is just based on my own experience. Now you have a computer, audio interface, USB cable, connect that. You have an instrument, guitar, bass, and a high quality cable. Then what you need is a DAW, which means digital audio workstation, which kind of handles the information. It's like a digital mixing desk, in a way. There's many options. My first was GarageBand. That comes with the Mac. I think it's not available on PC, but I think Reaper is probably free. So many of my friends who uses PC, they have started or actually still use Reaper. Another famous is Pro Tools. I've used Pro Tools also. It's great, kind of like industry standard. Then after that, I started to use Logic, because honestly, when Avid changed their payment policy that you need to buy or pay rent each month and whatnot, I was like, man, this is gonna cost me a lot. Then I just bought Logic. That was like one price, one payment, then that's yours. No monthly payments. Thank you. I used Logic a lot. About a year ago, probably a year and a half, Cyrus vocalist Jake, he's been using Steinberg's Cubase many years, and I've always been saying that, man, you should check that out. Then I finally, okay, I'm gonna check that out. Jake got me an endorsement deal. Man, that's the best in my opinion. It has, in my opinion, all the good things of Pro Tools and Logic, and it's really logical. You can try out it for free. Probably you can try out these others too that I've mentioned, but at least Cubase, there's a try out period. I don't remember the names, but there's like the Pro, and then there's a couple of which has less features, and then you can upgrade them if you, let's say, end up buying the cheapest version with the less options, possibilities, and you can upgrade that with a little bit payment to the next. So my recommendation is Steinberg's Cubase. I use the Cubase Pro 11, I think is the latest version. About guitar and bass recording gear. If you have real amps, absolutely fantastic. Because nowadays the reactive loads are so good. It's like playing with a real cab, but a lot easier and, hassle-free. I have used Shure Reactive Load IR and Soundtrack React IR. strong recommendation. They are both great. I still have them both. Lately I've been using the Sandrock because it sits nicely on my studio desk. Impulse responses, what I've been using, only Jens Bogren's. When they released the first pack, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I was like, yes. Now I have my own signature IR called Valovirta, which is on their lead and clean pack, but that IR works on everything. What is an IR? A well-made, good IR is cabinet, speaker, microphones in front of it, into high quality microphone preamplifier, then recorded. I have microphones, I could record this cab, but the way you dial a sound, you don't listen to it like this, because your ears can't record anything. So you have to dial a sound by putting mics in front, take this to another room where you can't hear it, and then dial the sound, what is being recorded. Because there's no use if you're sitting right here, like, man, it sounds great, but microphones hear things differently than what you hear. And at least to my knowledge, there isn't a technology yet that can record our brain and ears, how they hear things. So, microphones in front. You can get absolutely great results, but I can get the same results, and to be honest, sometimes even better with Jens Bogren's IRs, because he has a high quality studio, high quality microphones, and what's really important, high quality microphone preamps. They can make a huge difference. This is just for when I noodle around or give Skype guitar lessons. I haven't recorded all the albums from the past, I don't know, several years. I recorded with real amps into reactive load and impulse responses. About the preamps, do you need a separate preamp? These audio interfaces like the Focusrite and the Steinberg, they obviously have preamps, because otherwise, you know, you won't be able to record. Usually these are quite transparent, they don't have character, but if you want to have a certain character like Neve 1073, it has a character, certain sound, really expensive preamp, then yeah, that's cool. I haven't found the need when I record guitars or bass for a separate preamp, but let's say when recording vocals, drums, and if you mic a cabinet, like I just explained, then I have found that a good microphone preamp is pretty much a must, especially the Neve 1073. That's a classic for a reason. It's just great. I mean, you could record with these two, but they don't really have much character. And if you use old condenser microphones, you need to be able to, you know, crank the input to a certain level, and you're not necessarily able to do it with especially these small and cheaper ones. High quality preamp, if you have one, if you can afford, yes. If not, you know, that's okay. I haven't found the need for when I'm recording guitars and bass here. But for vocal recordings, live drums, live piano, whatever, I have found that the sound, the incoming signal, the quality of the signal will be better with a high quality preamp. Do you need a DI box with these when you're recording guitar and bass? No. There's the instrument / high Z knob, then you can just plug your guitar or bass in. Why do I have a DI box, or why many people have a DI box? This cable, this goes to the DI box. There. So when I'm recording an amp, I can also record a DI box same time, because the signal from this DI box, one signal goes to the audio interface and one goes to the KHG amp switcher, and then into the amps, back to the reactive load, and then to the audio interface. That's the only reason why I use DI box, so I can record a DI signal simultaneously. If I want to reamp it or add a plugin or whatever. Or if I just use a plugin, I don't need to unplug and plug the cables. To me, it's just like a signal splitter. But let's say if you don't have a instrument or high Z input, then you need a DI box. So the DI box changes the instrument level signal to a microphone level signal. And then the microphone level signal hits to your audio interface's preamp, or if you have a separate preamp. Some people might say that, yeah, a certain DI box changes the sound. Yes, there are DI boxes that color the sound. Radial makes it the biggest, I don't remember the model, but it has kind of like compressor and sort of like some like gain or distortion thing where you can really shape the sound in the DI. But I have the Radial J48. That's just a DI box. It has a Jensen transformer, so they say that it changes the sound to a warmer or something. To be honest, I haven't really noticed the difference, but a good DI box is always good to have. Reamp box. Where do you need a reamp box? If you want to reamp the DI, recorded DI signal with real amps. Like I just explained, when I record real amps, not always, but sometimes, let's say if I'm not sure if the sound what I'm recording will be the sound I'm gonna use, then I'll record a DI signal. And some producers, because I've done sessions for other bands, artists here, usually they want a DI signal also. So just they have more options. The signal, the recorded DI signal, it comes from the computer to audio interface. It's a line level signal. So you can't put a line level signal into amplifier because these are designed to get instrument level signal. Reamp box, only thing what it does, it changes the line level signal from the audio interface, from your DAW, from your computer. It changes it to instrument level signal. If you're not planning to reamp anything, you don't have real amps, you don't need a reamp box. Because with plugins, you can just change the plugin inside the DAW without needing to reamp anything. And obviously, you need something that you can listen the recordings. Don't underestimate the value of good speakers. In my opinion, the more neutral, the better. Because you want to hear, or at least I want to hear exactly what's going on without any bass boost or mid cut or high boost. I have this Genelec, I think they are 8020Ds. They don't make that anymore. I guess the equivalent nowadays is 8020C. They go down to 60 Hertz and quite high. They're really good, neutral, and I have SonarWorks reference calibration system and the microphone that you measure your room. So that system makes them even flatter. So it's like completely flat, no boost or anything. Why I have such a small speakers? Well, the room isn't so big and I don't listen very loud. I listen like basically this volume when I record or mix. Why? Prevent ear fatigue, and our brains, they trick us. It's usually the more louder something is, the better it sounds to us. But it doesn't mean that it's better. It's just louder. But our brains think that it's better. So I always record mix really quietly. Because if the sound is really punchy, powerful, and you can feel it when it's quiet, that means that, okay, it is actually good, punchy, and, hit you in the chest. And it will be even more of those when it's loud. My advice, mix quiet, then you actually know. And try to always record and mix on the same level So you get an idea. And the speakers, to me, it doesn't really matter whether if they are cheap or expensive, whatever. The most important thing is that you should know your speakers. I've had these over 10 years. I've listened to so much music with those. I know how Metallica's Black Album or this or that sounds with these speakers and with the Sonarworks reference system. So it's easy for me to mix. There's no surprises. Yes, they have one disadvantage. They only go down to 60 Hz. But what I use to check out the low end, I use Sennheiser. These are HD 650, and these are calibrated too by Sonarworks. And I think these go down to 25, 30 Hz. But you know, I'm doing rock and metal. There's really nothing important below 30 anyway, 35. So I'll check the low end with these. I have been thinking of getting a pair of speakers that go down to 30, but maybe someday. Acoustical treatment. That's also good to have. What I have here is bass traps in the corners, in the back corners, also acoustic panels on sides, the whole room and on the back wall. And the curtain is kind of like this really thick acoustic curtain. It dampens the sound a lot. Although I have all these, I still like to listen pretty quietly for the reasons I just said. But I can listen pretty loud also without the room being boomy and so on. A good studio working desk is also really cool to have. I mean, I used to work with just a standard like writing table. It was always a bit of a hassle, but now when I have this is a Zaur Onda angled. Everything is like the speakers are, you know, just perfectly. The screen is like down there, so I don't have to look like this. Everything is within reach my hands. The soft tube consoles are here, because one really important thing is the ergonomics, and you know, you have to, at least I am enjoying recording and mixing a lot more when I feel comfortable and everything is within my reach and I can hear everything well. So that's also a cool thing to have. All right, before we move on to the chapter 2, which is recording, let me show you my favorite plugins for guitar and bass. My absolute favorite, Soft Tubes, Amp Room. They make the best Marshall plugins. In my opinion, what I have here, JCM 800, my all-time favorite amp along with the Plexi. Sounds like this. That's 800. It feels really real. Obviously, it's not a real amp, but it's the closest that you can probably get. And ODR, SD1, a little bit noise gate, Marshall cab, a little bit EQ, just a tiny amount of studio room reverb. I've done a separate video about this video, so please check out my Soft-Tube plugins playlist, link in the description below. And on that video, the whatever it was called, new edition of 2021 edition of Amp Room, there's a link on that video's description to these presets, so you can download them and use them. Another which I use a lot here is this Jubilee Clean for clean sounds. Just really fantastic. I don't know, maybe there was some audio glitch on the screen recording. The other that I used actually quite a lot before I purchased the Amp Room is the STL Tonality Benson CLA Platnikov plugin, especially the Plexi here. I like this also a lot. It's really simple to use. There's many cabs, but I have downloaded my signature IR from Jens Bugre's leading cleanback, Valovirta. So you can download third-party IRs here. Basic pedals, 2 screamer, delay, reverb. And this has also a couple of cool amps. Wagner, Wizard, Fender Twin, Tweed, and bass amp. I've also done a video of this and a couple of others STL Tones plugins. Check out my STL Tones plugins playlist, link in the description. But the amp room is, if I use plugin for guitar and bass, I pretty much use an amp room. Let's actually put that on 800. Cool. A few delays that I like to use. Softube's tape echoes. It's really cool tape echo. I like this a lot. Another delay slash reverb plugin I use is Waves CLA Epic. There's basically 4 different delays and 4 different reverbs, and you can route them however you want. I use this also on many other things, not just guitar. It's really cool. And then this one, I basically bought this. This is THU by Overload. I bought this because of this micro pitch. This is basically Eventide's H3000, what Eddie Van Halen used. A little bit stereo delay and stuff. And this is part of the Sold 100 or whatever it was called package. And then this BHS Metal X, this has a symphonic plugin. You know, those classic Zakk Wylde tones. Oh, this is cool. This has many amps and whatnot. To be honest, I haven't even tried these because I just wanted to have the SPX90 symphonic plugin and the pitch shift Eventide H3000. And then let's check out a few cool bass plugins. I have the bass DI channel. Let me get the bass. The amp room. These are basically like mix ready, so there's distorted sound and clean DI sound and compressed and everything, so this you can basically throw in a mix and it should work just fine. I have other presets here too, but I've done a video, like I said, of this. So then another what I've used is the same Howard Benson CLA Platnikov plugin. There's lots of Chris Lord Alge's presets from different albums what he has used. This is Overcome Bass. I don't know what band or song this is. And it looks like there's only like one amp, but I can clearly hear and tell that it's probably a combination of amp, DI and maybe some sub bass, but it's just packaged into this simple thing. These CLA presets, they include his whole signal chain when he's mixing. So that's cool also. Then this Hellraiser, this one I used on my solo album. Cool. Joe Sturgis Jones. Another, my favorite is Joe's Rex Brown. And this Janne bass Red Wolf, this was the sound we used on Red Wolf's album. Cool. And then this one, this is free. It's TSE Audio's BOD. It's just a kind of their take on classic Tech 21's bass driver. This is really clanky. Usually I don't use this alone, but I recently bought a Tech 21's Jetty Lee bass preamp. This is awesome. There's like basically two amps. The drive section is kind of like the RBI, the basic Tech 21's DI, and then there's this deep section which is kind of like Jetty's Ampeg, like clean, really big low end. So there's two outs. They're here, so I can record the drive, the overdrive, and the clean low end separately. And then I also usually record this DI. And if I feel that I need something more, something extra, many times I use this BOD just for the clanky sound, clang, clang, clang. Or then I don't use anything on the DI channel. So basically my bass sound when I record, it's three different sounds: drive, deep, and the DI, and then I blend them together to get the results I want. This was the gear part. Now let's move into recording part. Recording. Couple of basic rules. When you record, no matter if it's a DI or amp via reactive load, make sure that the input gain level is correct, so that it doesn't clip, so that it stays on the green side, but it doesn't matter if it goes occasionally to yellow. As long as it doesn't go red, then it clips and distorts the wrong way. So the signal chain now is my guitar, ESP with EMG 8185, then it goes my pedal board, where I don't have anything on at the moment. From the pedal board, it goes to the DI box. From the DI box, it goes to here to channel 1 via XLR microphone cable. Then through goes to the KHE audio amp switcher and into Plexi. I'm gonna use Softube plugins, Marshall plugins, and the real Plexi on this one. Nothing on, the sound is like this. As you can see here, when I hit really hard, it goes yellow, but it's okay. And when I add, like, let's say SD on top of that, you see that the sound was actually quieter, the incoming signal. Why? Overdrive, you know, because waveforms are like this, overdrive is like this, so it's already compressed. But if it goes to red, then you just need to lower the input gain. And the recording templates. I have a template which I use always when I'm recording and mixing. A couple of templates. This is my console 1 template when I use programmed drums and so on. Obviously, if I mix something that has live drums, then it looks a bit different. But basically, on these 10 first faders, here, I have different buses. So what that means that individual, because there's like 3 bass tracks, they all go to here. So I can control the volume of them all via this one bus, like this way. First I need to set the levels in between them. So first is always drum bus, and here's kind of like my drum mixer. This is Toontrack's Superior Drummer 3. This is easily the best drum software MIDI program thing I have ever used. They make Easy Drummer, which is a little bit cheaper, really good also, less options. This is like amazing. I've also used Addictive Drums too. That was okay, but like I said, this is on another level. I have done a separate video about this, but let's go briefly what this is. So there's lots of kits which you can study, like, okay, why this kick drum, why this tom sounds like this, and you can actually learn a lot, because these presets been made by, you know, Bob Rock, Randy Stoll, you name it. This kit, this Yamaha kit, I've made this from the scratch, and just a few basic things. Tom, usually if you want that big tom sound, cut the mids, boost the highs. By cutting the mids, you reduce the conk, the cardboard boxiness. Here's my buses. So I like to use buses a lot. So there's a few different kicks. Kick, out mic, inside mic, sub mic. They all go to this kick bus, and then there's also a couple of samples. And then I've EQ'd the whole package here. And what I've done is, this is kind of like a Neve style EQ. Boosted some lows, cut it again some mids, boosted some highs, cut it everything below 45, that low mud that you don't need. And a little bit high cut, because it's a kick drum. There's nothing important in the highs. Although you don't hear it, but it could be there, so it's always safe to just cut it out. Snare, the same thing, some compression, EQ, and there's different snares, different snare samples, they all go to this bus, and then I've kind of EQ'd the whole package in there. And then they all go to this output channel where I don't have anything. You could add a drum bus compression, whatever here, but for the sake of making things the way I just do them, I leave this open, so it's only the individual and a little bit processing on the buses, and then I do the rest of the processing here, which is now off. We'll get into this when mixing. I kind of wrote a song, just added some drum beats, and I'm gonna now write the song. The riff I played on the gear part, this was completely improvised, but I thought that's pretty cool. So I made these drum parts. These beats were from the Metal Machine library, played by Johnson Pesta. I love his playing. He's one of my favorite drummers, and actually all the beats on my solo album, latest solo album, Shooting from the Heat, they were from this library. I obviously edited them to fit the songs, but basically the drums are played by Johnson Pesta. I just edited and mixed the drums to my liking. The possibilities are endless. I'm not gonna go through into that, because that's the topic of another video, which I've already done. Link in the description. Okay, then what I usually do when I record, I have a demo guitar where I just record a rough idea of the song, usually just with one sound. Let's do that, and I'm using now the Marshall JCM 800 from the amp room, boosted with Bass Super Overdrive. Pretty much the same what I have here, real amps. And this demo guitar track, this is a stereo track. All the other tracks that I have here, these are mono tracks, and they go into these stereo buses. We'll get into that on the mixing chapter, but let's just record this. Okay, like that. And now immediately I feel that this second part, it needs a clean guitar and so on. But now I have a like rough idea. And if I wouldn't be in this stage, so, and you know, this is only 1.5 minutes, not really a song, and just a bunch of riffs. Now I could, you know, cut this and edit and feel that what if I move this part to this part and this part to that part. So this is also a bit like, you know, songwriting also. But this is what I do. I jam with the drums and come up with stuff, and then before I know it, I have an idea of a song. Okay, then let's next record the bass. All right, bass. My Tokai with EMG P active pickups. And again, the signal chain is the same. It goes to the DI box and there to the input 1, which is JDI, and then into this Tech 21 Jetty preamp. And I'm recording the drive section, the deep section, and the DI section here. Activate these. Sounds pretty nasty, this hair, but usually if it feels that there's a lot of gain, usually in the mix it kind of disappears, so I always dial in a bit more gain on the bass than I think is needed. The secret for good sound, good sounding mixes, recording, is that you actually play well with a good instrument. You have a great tone, great sound in your hands from the get-go. Then it will sound probably really good in the mix. Okay, so let's see what happens. I actually don't have much idea what I'm gonna play. I kind of have an idea, so I'm probably gonna play something totally different than the guitar. But this is in like E minor or B minor, because this is down to one whole step to D, but whatever. Let's see what happens. And click on, always record with a click, so you'll be on time no matter what everybody else is doing. And make sure that it kind of goes to the red a little bit, but it sounds good. So, you know, the meters are great, but I trust my ears. You know, that's the final decision. Cool. That was that kind of bass arrangement. Let's see how it works when we listen it. These off. Well, that was a few interesting notes, but it'll do for this video. And again, now there's 3 sounds, and then I can mix them, blend them, EQ them to my liking. I'm gonna record the real rhythm guitar, so I'm gonna mute this, because as you heard, now the guitar sounded a little bit small, because in the mix. The reason is that because it was in the middle and it wasn't doubled. So the secret to a big guitar sound is to at least double, sometimes even double, quadruple the guitars. I usually do just 1 and 1, and then if I feel, maybe I do 3 and 4 with maybe different amp. But usually it's just, you know, 800 both sides. Maybe use one 800 on another and one on another side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna now record guitar left first, so you'll hear, because the idea is that no matter if you try to play as same and as precisely as possible, there's the human error, so it's never gonna be the same. So that adds the kind of chorus delay thing, and chorus is basically a delay effect, and that makes our brains think that, man, it's wide and big, because there's two separate takes, and when you pan them hard left and right, then it sounds big. Okay, let me get my guitar. All right, guitar recording, and it's good to have fresh strings. You know, the sound is more brighter, more everything. It's not, and make sure that the tuning is that you're in tune and the guitar is intonated and, you know, that usual stuff. And sometimes on albums, if there's like big chords, especially in low tunings, you might need to record parts separately, because, you know, if a certain part is tuned in here, it might not be completely in tune here. And on recordings, you hear those inconsistencies. But this is fairly simple, and the guitar is really good, and I have intonated it myself, so it's pretty much in tune. Okay, guitar left. I decided that I will play this part with clean, then let's continue here. There was an interesting chord thing. The bass and the guitar kind of collided. I hear that I want to have a hit on the end, on the last hit. So this is really easy to add crash 2. That should do the job. Yes. Okay, guitar left. Actually, I know what I'm gonna do with this. I'm gonna play an octave there. Guitar left first. Because the bass played G, so I played octave B, so that creates a major third dyad chord. And on the other guitar, I think I'm gonna play octave here, so then it's a more wider chord. That's rather surprising. But this is cool. You can do a lot of things, harmonize things and make things interesting. You know, just have fun and play. Okay, let's see how they sound. Yeah, that was okay. A quick edits here to clean things up a bit. Clean guitars. I tried the part that I originally played and it didn't fit with the bass part, so I came up with a more simple parts because the bass part was actually pretty cool. You know, song recording and writing and recording at the same time. I really like this because you know many times you surprise yourself. And let's again check the. Yes, it's cool. I don't need the bass amp anymore. Clean guitar left. Then let's do a double to make it bigger and lusher. Let's listen. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, then let's record a lead guitar. And for lead guitar, I'm actually going to use real amp. Because if we look at here, now these JDY, it's the DI input. So I've been having the JDI here, amp room, but this lead guitar, it's input 5, which is Soundtrack IR, and there's also Soundtrack Direct, so I could record just the direct sound without an impulse response and add that later. But I'm gonna record it with the Valovirta's impulse response. The Plexi is on. And I have a delay on the lead guitar bus, which is just there, so I'm not recording it, but it's cool to play with that. So when you record, never record delays and reverbs and stuff, because if you don't like the delay or if you want to change it or whatever, then if you record that delay, like with a delay pedal, like in the loop, then you can't take it out. There's nothing you can do. But if you record the amps dry, then you can add delay, reverb, or whatever you want afterwards. So now I have just what I have here is the CLA Epic, kind of like my preset, this stereo march, which makes this kind of thing, and it's set up so that it goes in the tempo. Okay, this is gonna be totally improvised. Let's see what happens. You know, something in E natural minor. Well, that wasn't really good. Let's try another take. You know, you don't always nail a solo with the first take. With the first take. think that was good enough for this. Let's listen. Yeah, it wasn't the best one, but it's okay. It was a bit of that Van Halen, you know, cat landing from down the stairs, and then grabbing the right note just in time. Well, it wasn't completely in time, but anyway, it was good. It was actually, yeah, not bad. It was just a plexi, no overdrives, nothing. A less gain is good. You get the phrasing too, you know. Too much gain and it's just mushy. Okay, then I think this ending needs something. This part kind of calls for Iron Maiden style dual harmony lead. Let me try something, I have an idea. Yeah, I'm gonna do a third harmony thing, E minor. Okay, let's record that. Guitar left first. Cool, and I'm using the plexi. Now I have it boosted with Bass SD1. It's cool to use different amps for different parts, so you get a clarity, because the rhythms were with the amp rooms Marshall JCM 800, cleans with Jubilee, and now I'm using real plexi. Okay, let's do the... let's do it. There was maybe... Actually, I will change this first a bit. Yeah, it was, the rhythm was clearer, just a slight changes. The endings, they weren't really clean, but it actually sounded pretty cool because it was like, it's really dirty. Here, there's this, I'm gonna leave that dirt in there. It sounded rock and roll. My advice, always to record at least 2 rhythm guitar, one left, one right. And since this is a DI sound, if I take off the plugging, it's a DI, so I could easily reamp this to get a different sound or whatever. And if I would like to have another track on the left, I would play a separate performance. Because let's say if I would copy this, I'm gonna actually show you. I will copy this exact track, guitar left, like this, and then I will pan it right. So now it's exactly the same performance. Check out what happens. It sounds like one guitar. It's in the middle, because it's the same performance, but when it's different performance. Our brain, you know, because they are not the same. There's a little bit delay, so it sounds wider. And these two, even though I panned them hard right and hard left, but it was the same, exact same performance, same waveform. It sounded like it's dead center. So, always separate performances. That was the recording. So, when you record, make sure the audio doesn't clip on the way in, and try to dial sound as ready as possible. So, having the idea that this is the sound I'm gonna use, no fix it in the mix. Obviously you need to EQ certain frequencies out, maybe compress it and so on. But the basic idea should be that the sound is there. Play well. If you wanna sound tight, play tight. If you wanna sound heavy, play heavy. Don't use too much gain on the amps. And for the big rhythm guitar sound, double track, hard left and hard right. You know, harmonies, third harmony is always a, you know, cool thing to have. And the lead, I was completely improvised. One cool thing is also to double the lead and then spread it a little bit. So again, that creates like a chorus effect. But since I improvised it completely, I don't now have time and interest to figure out what I did. And it sounded really cool because of the stereo delay already. All right, next thing, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix the track. I mean, it sounds pretty good already. Like I said, always aim for the best possible sound. So that when you record, when you track, it should sound already like an album. And then the mixing is just making it sound even better. So let's get into that now. I usually like to mix on a separate day of my own recordings, because that way you can kind of separate yourself and listen with fresh ears, like what's going on in there. So you're not necessarily tied into, you know, certain things, and you can more bravely maybe just left things out and do stuff. That's just me. Obviously, it's not always possible. Like on my YouTube videos, I pretty much mix it immediately. But like my solo album, I recorded everything first, then did a like week break, then mixed it, then like a couple of days break, and then master it, because that helps, at least to me, to separate myself from being a musician, recording engineer, then mixing engineer, and then mastering, because I treat those processes like they're completely with a different mindset. The same template, and first what I usually do, I get a rough mix, but now we pretty much have the rough mix already because we recorded this. So let's listen to this. Let's focus on one thing at a time. But most of the time when I mix, I kind of EQ and do everything in a context of a mix. And if I feel that if I need to dig into individual tracks, like really solo them, then I obviously will do that. But I try to get it as finished as possible just by listening the whole mix, because I mean nobody's gonna hear the individual tracks because it's all about the big picture. And what I try to achieve when I write songs, I imagine always like how this, when I'm on the stage, what do I feel, how would crowd react to this song? And then when I mix, I imagine that I'm in the audience, like behind the mixing desk. I'm imagining the band in front of me. They all have their places, you know, like this wise, you know, someone needs to be a little bit background, someone more closer, someone more wider. And I always have liked the mixes the most where I can really feel that the band is playing in my living room, so to say, or here, you know, that it's really like streamlined and it hits me in the chest. It's more about the feel to me than whatever is technically correct or whatever. But the big picture, I want to feel the band there and picture it, you know. That's just my way, and you know, there's no wrong or right way to do things. But let's focus on how I usually then, if and when I deep dive into stuff, I usually start with drums, because the drums were my first instrument. I started as a drummer and then guitar, bass. You know, guitar is I feel the strongest, but I can do, you know, drums well too. And, you know, bass I played on many albums and stuff. Anyway, let's focus on drums. So the key to me to a good drum sound is parallel compression. And what that means is that, let's take this. So here's my drum bus where all the tracks from the superior drummer goes. And if I would have real drums now, this window, this will be here in Cubase. But now I've already done the kind of drum mixing here, which I think works fine. I'm not gonna touch it unless I feel that it's necessarily to dig deeper. And then let's play the drums. So now there's no parallel compression, no any bass processing. I mean, they sound pretty good, but you can make them sound better. So let's include the parallel compression. As you hopefully hear, the cymbals became kind of like more explosive. The room kind of is more vivid and more, it just feels more alive. And if we listen to the only compressor, as you hear, the drums are quite like squashed. I mean, this is fairly mild bass compression, what I'm having now. I don't like to usually go too extremes because I like things to be natural. But I have two different bass compressors which I use. This one, what I have now, this is Arturia's emulation of a classic Neve diode compressor, you know, legendary bass compressor. You can use it on mix bass, drum bass. It's a stereo, but I always like to use dual mono. I don't like to stereo link anything. I'm gonna show you soon why, and hopefully you hear that too. And the other which I use, which I've said to be much more aggressive on a limit mode, is Softube's Chandler Zener limiter. So let's listen just the parallel bass, how it sounds. First with the Comp Diode 609. the drums just becomes more alive. And the makeup gain, when it's parallel compressor, it doesn't really matter, but the way I dial a compressor, and I suggest that you do, because like I told before, our brain always thinks that if something is louder, it's better, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. So I try to dial the makeup gain so that the compressed signal is on the same level than the uncompressed. So then I can really tell that is this actually better or is it just louder. Okay, now it's dual mono. Let me show you what happens when it's stereo. Because when it's stereo, it compresses both sides equally. But like on this one, when there's a drum, if there's a big tom hit on the right side, then if it's in stereo mode, it will duck the left side too. And to me, it also makes the whole drum mix sound like a little bit narrower when it's stereo. But when it's dual mono, so each side is compressed individually. You know, when there's big tom, like this kind of tom beat, like, you know, high tom, floor tom, then it compresses them individually. To me, it's just more vivid, more alive sounding, and not as narrow as on stereo mode. So I never use a stereo link. It's always dual mono on these, you know, stereo buses. It's a slight difference, but the devil is in the details. So I use dual mono. This is pretty much my go-to setting. The threshold, it just depends on the, you know, how hot is the signal, but so that I can get around 4 dB of compression. The attack is fixed like on the original. You can dial this too, but I haven't found it. The recovery time, 100 milliseconds. And the makeup gain, again, it's that, so, you know, the compressed level is the same as the uncompressed. But when this is parallel compressor, it doesn't really matter because you blend this in. So it doesn't really matter, but I just like to set the compressor like this way so that it's unity level. Okay, then let's listen the Zener limiter, which I've said to be a lot more aggressive compression. First I'm gonna use the comp diode and then switch to the Zener. Here it's a lot more squished. The snare sounds different. The kicks are a little bit, it's different. So these are my go-to drum bass parallel. And again, the channels aren't linked. So it's compressing each side individually. You know, now we've been listening just the parallel mix. You see, this is 100%, so it's wet. This doesn't have. So now let's listen the drums without the parallel, and then what happens when I blend in the parallel compression. And like I said, I could have this like on 0. So if we listen to that alone now. It's a lot louder, so I can actually tell if it's better, it's just louder. But when I blend it in, it doesn't really matter in this instance because it's parallel. So then I need to, because when the compression is that loud now, I just need to dial it less here. I'm actually liking the Zener at the moment more. It's a bit more, meaner. So let's use the Zener on this mix. Then other thing what I usually have, this is just gives the drums a little bit more warm. Let me show you what happens. This is basically also these set and forget things, like those compressors. I like to have things, set a certain way. A certain compressor is set a certain way, certain way, and then I just switch between them. And if I really feel that I need to tweak the settings, then I'll do that. Then what I also like to use, because now that the drums they sound pretty cool, and sometimes I just want to have more epicness. So it just makes the drums sound bigger, but this I usually or always dial in the context of a mix, because now it feels like, whoa, it's a bit too much, and the snare was like really echoey, but it's a cool sound. Now I have it on the drum bus, so all the drums are being affected, but sometimes if I feel that the snare, there was too much reverb, or the kick had too much reverb, then I just import the kick and snare, maybe even toms separately out of the Superior Drummer into the Cubase, and then I leave this echo, room echo, out from those. Usually it sounds surprisingly good when I just throw that in on all, but sometimes it's a bit too much for the kick and snare. They kind of lose the little bit of the impact. Then let's move to bass. I forgot to mention the first thing I always do when I mix. I mix into this Tegeler Audio Manufactures Crème RC, which is a Pultec style EQ and SSL style bass compressor. It's a stereo device. So I mix into this, and how I've set it, I'm gonna actually film this too. So you see, now it's bypassed, we're gonna listen soon. So low boost, 60 Hz. Gets the nice fat sound, and it's really broad boost. It actually boosts slower and almost goes to the mids. High boost, 12K. The output is, it can be whatever, but I've set it to 1, so it's, when I bypass it, it's pretty much the same. Like I said, how to dial a compressor on EQ. And then I set it the low cut so that the compressor doesn't react anything below 60 Hz. So the kick and bass can be more roam free, so to say. The threshold, that depends on the incoming signal, but I usually try to get only like 2 or 3 BF compression though. So I dial this according to it. Attack is usually always at 10. Release auto, sometimes on cream. I don't know what it does, but it makes the highs to be like more louder. So I think it doesn't compress the highs as much on this cream setting. And the ratio is always 4:1, always EQ before compression. Let's listen first without, and then I kick this in. Like you heard, it just makes everything sound better. So it adds nice low boost fatness, nice high air, and the compressor, when it's just like 2 dB, it kind of glues everything together. And you heard what happened when I bypassed the sidechain low cut. The kick kind of became smaller and stuff. So I like to have it sometimes even 120 hertz. So then it doesn't also compress the bass that much. But so I mix into this. So all my decisions EQ compressor wise are based into this. I found this is a really cool way, because when you add this to your whole mix, everything immediately sounds a bit better and more glued. Now let's go to the bass. Okay, so what I did, as you probably saw and heard, I added a compressor. This is my go-to bass compressor, Softube's FET compressor, which is their emulation of a classic 1176 compressor. Ratio 4:1, attack medium, release fast, and that's about it. It's the same settings on all these bass tracks. Drive, deep, and clean. Like you heard, it just packs it, like makes it even. This is amazing compressor. Then what I had already in there, dimension D. Let me actually show you what that does, because it just makes the bass a little bit wider. Like you heard, the bass sounds quite nasty, but when it's with the guitars and in the mix with the drums, that kind of disappears. It just makes it more like, informed. Now it's a lot more even. Let's actually see what I did with the EQ. So I basically cut it. The from 50, that and then I boosted a little bit around 78, just a tiny bit, and cut a little bit of that kind of boxiness or so and then added 8K is my favorite. 8K on SSL works on everything. You want more presence to drums, 8K. More presence to bass, 8K. More presence to guitars, 8K. I love the 8K on SSL. I think it sounded pretty good. Guitars. I don't think I need to do much because the sound is pretty on spot already. But let's see. Yeah, they're good. Just a little bit low cut and high cut. And again, the gain staging, what I mentioned on the recording, so you need to adjust that because the gain staging was good with Cubase, but this is kind of the SSL. So I've added 3 dB so that the aim is, at least for me, is to that the peaks will be between -12 and -6 dB. So then the gain levels are, the signal is the best. But I think the guitars are, you know, there's not much I need to do. I don't like to compress rhythm guitars basically ever, at least when I play them, because if I play, you know, harder, I want that, you know, emphasis to become like, you know, usually the first chord and chorus I play a little bit harder, and then if I play easier, I want that to be easier. I don't want the guitars to be like really flat in a way, so no room, so they can roam for free. But let's say if I mix something that isn't so well played, then I maybe need to, you know, artificially make them to sound better, but when I play, I don't do anything. I'm gonna actually automate the bass here because I want the clean to be more audible and not that much dry because it's really mellow part. Cool, right off. Now let's listen again. Yes, it's fine. Then let's check out the lead guitar. Okay, I could make it a little bit more even with the compressor because there wasn't much gain, especially the ending, just a slight amount of compression, and I cut it the high, lows a bit once more. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a tape echo. So it's a little bit smoother on this one. Let's check out the pitch shift, because the pitch shift is cool to, you know, you get a little bit wider sound. Yeah, the lead guitar is cool. Soft tubes, tape echoes, overloads, pitch shifter, little bit compression and low cut. That's it. Clean guitars. What do I have there? I play them both with a Softus amp room Jubilee. There I have a little bit chorus in front, a little bit EQ, tiny amount of compression, and actually I'm gonna take this already out, this room reverb, and I'm gonna take it out also here. Let's bypass the reverb like that, so both guitars exactly the same settings. Now let's listen them. Again, 8K, actually quite a lot. But that's why it's important to EQ in the context of a mix. And what I also did, I added the dimension D, so that's in my effects here. So I have basically three like these effects that I can blend in. Dimension D, symphonic, which I haven't used now. It's even more like aggressive chorusing. And then it's kind of like Eventide H3000. It works really well on lead guitars just to spread the sound a bit. So what I have going on is Dimension D on bass, pitch shift on guitars, and Dimension D on clean guitars. Okay, then actually I think I might add a little bit Dimension D on the rhythm guitars as well. Okay, then the outro melody guitars. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So what I did, I added this was actually already in there because I recorded with this, my kind of melody preset, which is delay into small amount of plate reverb. And then the other thing, I EQ'd the whole bus and not just the individual tracks. I cut it quite radically low and away because, you know, the guitar's played up, though there's anyway not information, or if there is and was, it was just this cloudy thing. And again, a little bit compression to kind of just evening out. SSL 4000 is basic compression is my like go-to compressor, and if it doesn't do the job, then I use usually I use always the FET compressor on bass, and this Summit Soft Tubes emulation of Summit Audio's TL100, which is basically Summit Audio's version of the classic Telectronics LA2A compressor. It's not as aggressive as FET. It's a little bit smoother and stuff. I like it on clean guitars a lot. All right, so the mix is start to sound like a record. Let's listen and check out if there's any things we need to still do. Okay, now when the mix is, almost ready, I think the Neve emulation, the comb diode, actually works a little bit better. It makes the drums a little bit more open because it's not so smashed. Because like I said, I dialed these two, the channel, so it really smashes the drums, and this is a bit more not so aggressive. Yeah, I'm gonna use actually the comb diode 609. Okay. Maybe I will also make the rhythm guitars to be just a tiny bit quieter than what they are now on the ending, so that let's try it. I have no idea if this will work or not. Yeah, it kind of opened, just a 2 dB. So what I did, I only lowered the rhythm guitars 2 dB. Yes, and that's also one of the reasons why I use these buses, so I can only, do the automation with one knob, but without having to adjust, well, I have only 2 rhythm guitars, but let's say if I would have 4, it would be a lot more difficult. I think this is pretty much done. So once more from the beginning, and let's see, everything should be okay, and if this is cool, then we can bounce this and move to mastering. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I tried to boost the 8K on bass even more, but it was a little bit too much. I think this is cool. The bass is indeed, it's a bit loud, but I think, because I really like to hear everything. I guess we're ready to print this mix and move on to mastering. New day, same shirt. What is mastering? To put it simply, to me it's just adding that final touch to the mix, which I'm aiming always to, that the mix that's there, that there's only thing that you need to do is, or when I'm doing this, is just, you know, make the levels to reach the -14 around LUFS for streaming services, which is pretty standard nowadays. Maybe add some EQing, but in general, I'm thinking that, you know, when I record a sound, this should be the sound. That's it. Obviously, like I did, you need to EQ it, compress it a little bit, you know, that it fits in the mix. When I'm mixing, I'm not thinking that, yeah, we'll make this better in mastering. I'm thinking that this is it, this is the mix. But again, different mindset for different tasks. So now my mindset is mastering. Now I'm looking the even bigger picture, because mixing, I was focused on, yes, the big picture, but also the individual tracks. Now I'm just focusing the stereo track, the two bus. That is there anything that I still can do to make this better? Okay, Isotope Ozone 1. I use this for mastering. It has basically all you need for mastering, or at least what I need. Dynamic EQ, dynamics, EQs, you name it. So what I'm trying to aim is the around -40 LUFS to get the loudness to the, you know, level that is pretty standard nowadays. Let's listen the song first. Yeah, it still sounds good. And as you saw, it was around -20 LUFS. So we need to make this a bit louder. And how we do it? We use a maximizer, which is kind of like limiter. So we set the ceiling to -1, so that no matter what we do, it doesn't distort or peak. And then with the threshold, we are making it to around -12, -14 LUFS. And again, now what I do, this doesn't affect you, but I lower my volume here because I don't want to be tricked by the, you know, what I've told that when something is louder it sounds better, but it isn't the case. So I'm raising the volume here. It will raise to you when you're watching this. Maybe I need to edit it a little bit so that doesn't clip in Final Cut when I edit this video, but okay, now it was around there, a little bit louder. I added just a little bit of transient and sustain, kind of, so it treats sides a little bit independently. No, devil is in the details, and the character was, you know, quite fast. How the limiter reacts. So now It sounds the same, it's just louder. It isn't any better or any worse. I haven't listened to any reference tracks. I don't like to listen when I mix. That just confuses me. But when I master, I listen reference tracks just to get an idea of the loudness level and how general music sounds. I have a couple of go-to tracks. Metallica's Enter Sandman. I'm not looking for that sound necessarily, but that album has quite a lot of highs. So that's kind of my ceiling, that okay, if I have more highs than on Metallica's Black Album, Enter Sandman, then maybe I need to tame them down. And I really like the low end. It's big, but it's tight, it's not boomy. Other tracks I like to listen, Madly Cruise, Hooligans Holiday, from the John Corabi album, something done by Chris Lord-Alge, just tracks that I think that sounds good before I start this. And then I have a kind of like idea, ballpark, that where my mix fits in there. This has a master assistant, which you can download, let's say the Enter Sandman, and it does it for you, and then you can tweak it, and that's pretty cool, but I kind of like to do things myself. Okay, then let's check out the EQ section, because now I listened to those tracks before, and I felt like both of those tracks and a couple of others, they have a little bit more air on the highs than what I have now. So let's try to add that a little bit. Yeah, just a tiny amount. You heard when I soloed that. So if I would have checked this back, then it would have affected guitars and stuff. But I want guitars to be exactly like they are. So just that really high air, that's silver. Let's check out the low end. For that I use these Sennheisers. Like I said on the gear section. Why? Because these go lower than the Genelecs. The low end is good. It isn't boomy. There's low end, but there's not that because I cut those really low frequencies already out in the mix. And I don't think this needs any compression, because the limiting is doing a little bit of that packing, because I had the bus compressor when I mixed the track. A good idea to add some stereo spread. Okay. For that I don't use headphones, because that can fool you. I do. So only thing where I use headphones is to check the low end. Yeah, just a little bit. If I put it too far, it just becomes. Because I like the mix, so I just spread it a little bit wider. Because the guitars are bent hard left and hard right, it affects those a lot. So I don't want them to be too far. Okay, then let's listen. These are just some different maximizer limiting modes. I found that I like this IRC4 Classic quite a lot. I might try one thing to make this even a little bit more alive with this thing, with the dynamic EQ, and let's put that here in the middle. I think the song is ready. I'm gonna bypass these other all and then add them in. I don't want to bypass the maximizer, because that's basically the only thing is making it louder so it doesn't trick. But let's listen once more. Yeah, I think it made the song sound even a bit more better than what it was. So once more what I did, little bit high shelf in there, about 10.5K, so that it doesn't boost the guitars, but just the really high highs. Some dynamic EQ doesn't really do much, but it kind of creates this sense or feel of movement. And the frequencies when I solo them, it was just like those kind of nasty, like those. And I added dynamic EQ, so standard EQ will cut those completely. But now with the dynamic EQ, because it's kind of acts like a compressor, so there's the threshold level, like when it starts to, when the signal or that frequency reaches a certain threshold, then it EQs that out. And here is the frequency, and the gain is how much that EQ. I think I put like 4 dB gain on all. And here is only 2, and that's kind of, that was like those really high highs. So if there is that, then it kind of, because I boosted the highs here with the high shelf, so then this kind of just reduces those really high, especially if you're listening really loud. Those can be a little bit annoying, so that kind of tames them down a little bit. The stereo imager, just a tiny bit of stereo spread, and then I check the master in the mono, it works there too. So that was that, and then the maximizer limiting -1, so it doesn't peak no matter what happens, and the threshold is so that I got around, well, it was actually -13 I think, but around there in the ballpark of -12, -14 LUFS, so it's quite a bit louder than my mix was. But now this is ready to be uploaded to Spotify, Apple Music, those streaming services, because now it's, you know, it can compete with other officially released music. That was mastering, just the icing on the cake. All right, that was it. If you managed to watch this on one session from beginning to end, then hats off. It was a bit long indeed, was it? But I've been asked by so many people, and you, dear subscribers and, you know, viewers and everybody else, to do something like this. Like I said, my original idea was to do separate videos, but, you know, I think it's cool that all these topics are in one video. I want to thank especially you, my dear subscribers, 15,000 just recently. That's awesome, heartwarming. The journey continues. Hopefully you found this interesting and informative, and hopefully you got tips for your own musical journey, gear-wise, recording, songwriting, mixing and mastering. And this was just the way I've been doing things. I do things. There's many other ways also. One advice that I would give, there is no such thing as wrong or right, especially in music. 'Cause if it sounds good, it's good. All right, take care, all the best. See ya.